Welcome to this fifth lecture in this series of videos on textile printing. From this point onwards, we will delve into an in-depth study of fabric preparation for printing. More specifically, we will be talking about removal of weft distortions from the fabric before printing.
Let's first recall weft distortions that we discussed in the last lecture. This image here shows different types of distortions that can occur in the weft threads. These distortions include bow, skew, combinations of bow and skew, and compound distortions such as double bow and S bow. For removal of weft distortions, a particular machine known as the weft straightener is used. This machine is usually installed as a part of a stanter, although this machine on its own can be used as a standalone machine. However, because it's a small unit, therefore there are some obvious advantages if this unit is installed within a stanter. So if we look at a stanter over here, then this part or this module over here is the weft straightener. You do not need to worry about the other parts in this layout of the stanter that is shown in this image. That is because in the second part of this lecture series, we are going to talk about these parts in detail. Leading manufacturers of weft straighteners include Malo, Bianco, Pliva, E&L, and few others also.
Let's first quickly look at different types of weft straighteners. The first type that we are going to discuss is called a pinwheel weft straightener. There is another and probably a more common type that is employed in the industry called the roller or the cylinder weft straightener. And then most manufacturers offer what they call a combination weft straightener. It is interesting to note that the types of weft straightener, the different names that we see, are on the basis of the type of correction arrangement that is present in these weft straighteners. We will talk about this more in a while.
You can take a break here because we are almost 35 minutes into the lecture. And then when you come back, you can have a look at the pinwheel weft straightener, the second type of weft straightener. Okay, so I assume that you have taken a quick break. Now let's start discussing about the second type of weft straightener known as a pinwheel weft straightener. The primary reason the manufacturers of weft straighteners came up with this particular type is its ability to remove simple distortions as well as wavy distortions that we have discussed before, that is the S-bow or other types of compound distortions. So this is one important aspect that you need to remember. Recall that S-bow or compound bow cannot be removed on a roller type weft straightener. If you look at the parts of a pinwheel weft straightener, it's again in a way the similar format. We have a sensing arrangement and we have a correction arrangement. The sensing arrangement in a pinwheel weft straightener can be very similar or exactly same as in any roller weft straightener. However, the correction arrangement of a pinwheel weft straightener is totally different from that of a roller weft straightener. And in case of a pinwheel weft straightener, there are two large diameter wheels which have pins on their circumference. Hence the name of the machine, pinwheel weft straighteners. In this image here, the correction arrangement of a pinwheel weft straightener is shown. And this is one of the pinwheels on one side of the machine and another large wheel on the other side of the machine. So you can see that the fabric shown here is running over these wheels. Now let's review the working principle of a pinwheel weft straightener. Interestingly, it's in my opinion, it's easier to understand the working principle of a weft straightener because the working principle is just that you apply some lateral force or sideways force on the weft threads, and of course due to this force the distortions are removed. But just to understand this working principle with the help of another example, let's consider a thread. So you can take a piece of thread, you can actually do this demonstration uh, at your home also. So we have this thread which is of course not straight, as you can see. Now if we apply lateral force or sideways force at the end points of this thread, then intuitively you can understand that the convolutions or the curvatures in the thread will begin to straighten out. Okay, I've got some messages over there, ignore these please. And the more force you apply, the more convolutions or curves in the weft threads in the threads is removed. So I will strongly encourage you to do this demonstration. Just take a thread, put it on the table with some curves in it, and then pull apart its endpoints. So that's exactly how this principle works in case of a fabric. So if we have a fabric and let's say there is a bow distortion in it, and you apply this lateral force with the help of the pinwheels that we saw in the previous lecture, then due to this lateral force, the bow distortion is straightened out. And it is due to this working principle that a pinwheel weft straightener is able to remove compound distortions as well. So this distortion here that I've shown is sort of a double bow. Still, if we apply sideways force, lateral force on the fabric edges, then this double bow or this compound distortion will also be straightened out. So the fact that a roller or a cylinder weft straightener is not able to remove compound distortions is actually due to the working principle. And in case of a pinwheel weft straightener, it's just the lateral force, and the action of lateral force is such that any distortion in the weft threads is straightened out. And that's why a pinwheel weft straightener is able to remove compound distortions as well. There was a third type of weft straightener in the previous lecture called the combination weft straightener. But of course, as we discussed in the previous lecture, it's just a roller weft straightener and a pinwheel weft straightener mounted on top of each other. So the working principle for a combination weft straightener is not different from that of roller or pinwheel weft straighteners. Let's talk about the working principle of a pinwheel weft straightener. In order for the weft straightener to remove the distortions, the fabric salvages have to be secured properly on the pins that are provided on the circumference of the pinwheels, as you can see in the image here. So with the help of a brushing roller, this one over here, the fabric salvages are secured in the pins that are provided on the circumference of the pinwheel. Once the fabric salvages are secured on the pinwheels on either side, the pinwheels are inclined relative to one another. And as a result of this inclination of pinwheels relative to each other, a lateral or widthwise force is exerted on the fabric. This lateral tension or force stretches the weft threads, and thus any distortions that are present are straightened out. So due to this working principle of a pinwheel weft straightener, that is application of lateral force on the weft threads, a pinwheel straightener is able to remove skew and bow, simple skew and bow, as well as compound distortions. We will now try to understand the working principle graphically. So I'm going to repeat the steps. The fabric salvages. This is the fabric entering into the pinwheels, and the fabric salvages are secured on the pinwheels on either side. Once this is done, wheels are inclined relative to one another. And as you can imagine, due to this inclination, the pinwheels are going to exert a lateral force on the fabric. So you are actually pulling the weft threads from their edges. And as the fabric over the pinwheels, the relative inclination increases and more lateral force is exerted on the. Eventually, the lateral force is enough to straighten out the weft threads.
Let's recap this lecture. The first point is to understand that removal of weft distortions is a crucial pre-treatment or preparatory process that has to be performed prior to printing a fabric. The second point that we have covered is that there are different types of weft straighteners that can be used to remove weft distortions. And the third and the more significant part of the lecture was about what we call a pinwheel weft straightener, which uses large discs with pins on their circumference to apply lateral force on the weft threads. And as a result of this lateral force, the weft threads are straightened out, or in other words, weft distortions are removed. Thank you for listening to this lecture, and I will suggest that the next video that you should watch is the one in which we discuss about how weft straightening is done using the other types of weft straighteners, that is the roller and the combination weft straighteners.